Bob Shaw, designer, builder of this car. Bob is one of those guys that's kind of legendary in the car world.
I'm Bob Shaw, and this is my car, and this is my wife, Bobby.
Hi.
I'll explain to you the way this car came to be. It was designed in the early 50s, and it was never built. And I was sitting with Brooks Stevens in his living room discussing cars one afternoon, and he said, "Hey, you know how to build cars, why don't you build this car we never built?" And it was the last car he had designed. So I said, sure. And he gave me a model that he had made, made a designer make, and an artist rendering, from which we built the car over a period of 8 years.
The appropriate name of the car?
The Excalibur RS, and the RS is for me, Robert Shaw.
Oh, there you go, there you go. Now, you know what? Let me get one of the most important questions done with at the very beginning. Do you let your better half drive it? Meaning your wife. Do you let your wife drive it?
Do you let me drive the car?
No, she's never driven this one.
Not yet.
It has an automatic,
I
so
was in it once.
she can handle it.
Wow.
As a passenger.
We built the chassis in Scottsdale, Arizona, and shipped it to Charlevoix, Michigan, where the car was completed.
What is the horsepower of the car?
Around 500.
How is the car to drive?
Wonderful. Very smooth and very easy. If you watch the Jay Leno video, you'll see he talks about how comfortable it is and that he could drive this thing all day.
I could drive this thing all day. This is about as professionally built one-off as I've ever seen. Look at the side. Little kind of GT40 influence in the front. The rear end I love. Look at the rear of this thing. Very cool.
Some of the features of cars I previously owned, cars of some significance. You'll notice in the front some GT40 details.
So how many years have you, when did you first get this? When did you first get this automobile?
Well, we built the car over a period of 8 years.
Wow.
This was my third car that I built.
How did you get into the car industry? Or how did you become?
It started as a hobby in about the early 50s. An early issue of Road and Track had an article on the Type 35 Bugatti, which got me crazy about the car. I became a Bugatti enthusiast, and I built a body on my first Bugatti, which is now in a museum in France.
Now I understand that someone famous on TV has talked to you about this car. Jay Leno?
Yeah, Jay Leno. Well, we had a lot to talk about because my Bugatti was a Type 38 and he happened to own a Type 38 also.
Bob, tell us about your background.
Well, I got interested in cars when I was in high school, like most of us. Was one of the very early sports car guys in Chicago. Stayed with sports cars all my life, and got interested in vintage racing.
Yeah, it's about time to go for a ride. You're gonna drive a car like this, you gotta look cool. It's amazing how low to the ground you are in this car. About 500 horsepower.
Yes.
Drives very nicely, handles very nicely. Very comfortable car to drive. Seats really hold you in. Tracks very nicely. Feels like a production automobile. It's amazing. Now you have a guy with you who travels around the country?
Yes. Jeff is my valet. He takes care of me
Jeff,
and
come
my
on
cars.
in here. Hi, Jeff. How are you?
Since I became impaired, I hired Jeff just after I had a stroke 18 years ago, and he's been with me ever since and takes care of me and my cars.
Now, what does a car weigh, Jeff? Any idea?
Right around 3,000.
Right around 3,000 pounds. Pretty light, pretty nice.
And so, what most do you like about the car?
This one, the fact that it was the last car that Brooks Stevens designed.
Yeah, so we're just going to demonstrate how the car opens and closes. It's a 1960s design. It was built in the late 90s, early 2000s, so Bob took some liberties and added a few electronic touches, like electric actuators and things like that. We'll show you how it all works. He wanted to one-up Lamborghini and make the doors power. And the trunk and hood also. All come down. Yeah, throwing the idea of power into the mix after the car was already being built was a real challenge for the builders to engineer everything to work and keep maintain the body lines. Right, Bob, that was a real challenge for Draper and the guys. I'm sure he rolled his eyes a few times when you asked him to make everything power. Hi, I'm Jeff Safranek. I am Bob Shaw's caretaker. He hired me many years ago to take care of his cars, including this one. And I just help him maintain the car, keep it running, trailer it, drive it, whatever it needs. It's a complicated car, so it could be difficult sometimes with all the electronics, but we keep it going, and it drives as well as it looks. I mean, it's incredible. It's a homemade tubular steel chassis, and you wouldn't expect a prototype car like this to handle that well.
Right.
You think it would just go down the road, but it drives like a dream. I mean, even with the low ground clearance, that's never an issue, believe it or not. The car's got probably 2,000 or 3,000 miles on it. The odometers never work that well, so we don't know exactly, but we've had the car on multiple tracks, not racing, but just kind of exhibitions. We've had the car in the Wilshire Boulevard in California, Smoky Mountains, Tennessee, North Carolina, went down to Daytona Beach. So the car's had a good life. Been shown all across the country.
How much horsepower is this?
You know what? We're not sure. I don't think we've ever dynoed it. It's probably right around 400 horse. It's pretty mild. Bob was about 80 years old when the car was finished, and he wanted to make it drivable. So he put an automatic transmission in it, put a mild engine in it. He's not looking for power.
Right.
But it's got the Hildebrand quick change rear end in the back, so you could gear it any way you want. If you want to go 0 to 60 fast, you can do that. Or if you want top end, you change the gear. So horsepower is not that important in a car like this. But if you see under the hood, they made their own valve covers. One for looks, but also to kind of disguise it and throw people off. Usually when you see red valve covers like this, you think Viper V10. But it's just a GM 350 with some trick valve covers.
Very nice.
Yeah, fuel injected. Nice, dependable car. And the low roof line makes it very interesting to drive because the windshield comes right about your eyesight, and it's just a weird experience to be in an open car like this. None like any other convertible or roadster I've been in.
I bet it makes you feel like you're part of the road.
Yeah, it does. It's an experience. It really, really is. And of all the cool cars I've driven in my lifetime, this is definitely one of the most unusual. And yeah, so here are all the controls for the electric actuators: left door, right door, trunk, hood, up and down, and these are all of our headlights, parking lights, drive lights. Quick release steering wheel, which everybody likes, makes the car a lot easier to get in and out of.
My hobby was terribly out of control. I built 3 cars, and they all took 8 years apiece. And I'm too old to do it again. But fortunately, my first car that I built in my early 20s is in a museum in France, in the Schlumpf collection. It's Type 38 Bugatti, which I built the body on. I bought the Bugatti for $900, which is all the money I had at the time. And the body was completely shot on the car, so I had to build a new body to salvage my $800. And I didn't know what I was doing, so I had to learn every step along the way of building a body. That's why it took 8 years.
Right, wow. And where did you learn how to do all that?
By doing.
Good.
I was always interested in car coach building as a young man, and I framed the body in wood and fitted the panels to the wooden framework. One night I was in my garage working on the wooden framework, and I ran out of wood, so I went in the house and woke up my wife and took the bed slats out that held up the box spring and built them into the cowling. I told that story to them at the museum in France, and thereafter they started calling me Shaw of America.
We'd like to show your car next, so please leave us a comment, subscribe, and like us.